Hey everybody, this is Matt Fecher from AudioKit. I'm really excited to be here with Brian Funk, and I guess let's get started.
All right, welcome to the Music Production Podcast, and there you have it. I'm here with Matt Fecher. How are you?
Oh, so awesome, Brian. For those listening, I've been a big fan of Brian's work for a long time, so it's really exciting for me to actually sit down and talk to him and meet him finally.
Well, that's an honor to hear because I'm a fan of your work right now, as are many people at the moment, because you're doing some really cool stuff. I'm actually, I didn't realize the connection up until we started talking that you were responsible for the FM player, which I love, is a great app. So, and
Oh,
then
nice.
what you're doing with AudioKit is super cool and exciting, and you just released Synth One, the new free app which is a beautiful synthesizer. I've got lost in it for hours already, so I'm super psyched. So maybe I can ask you to just kind of tell everyone what's going on, what you're up to.
Well, okay, so I'm part of an open source project. We're all volunteers. There's no company. Everyone just volunteers their time and contributes where they can, and we make cool stuff. We write code that helps people make iPhone apps and music apps, and we also make music apps like AudioKit Synth One and FM player that he mentioned, and we can go into detail on each of those if the listeners aren't familiar with it. You can find out more about what we do at audiokitpro.com, and you don't and it's also fun for hobbyists. If you're getting into programming, there's a new programming language called Swift where you can write code kind of like JavaScript and make music apps for the iPhone and iPad. Traditionally, it was incredibly difficult to learn how to do that, but we're trying to make it easier and bring music programming and music apps to everyone.
So what we could kind of say is you're sort of providing the building blocks that people can use to create their own audio apps.
That is exactly right. Kind of like a builder buying like a pre-made sink or kitchen cabinets. We're
Mm.
providing these things that they could plug into their apps to help build like oscillators and reverbs and flanger and all kinds of DSP code.
Yeah, that's excellent. It kind of reminds me of, like, I guess, like the way engines work, like in video games these days. Like
Yes.
where I guess, and again, like so everyone knows, no trying to fake anything. I'm not a programmer, so this is all. I might be really off base on a lot of things I say, and some of the questions might sound really ignorant. But
Yeah, well, smack me if I get too techy. I barely understand what I'm talking about either, so we're
okay,
on
that's
equal
fun.
footing.
But yeah,
And
like
that's
what I
yeah,
understand,
go
like a
ahead.
lot of like the video games are built off similar engines with the mechanics and like how things react in the world and the players interact with the worlds. Would you say that's like a nice comparison to what you're doing?
That is the perfect analogy. There's no need to reinvent the wheel since so much
Mhm.
code has already been built. And a lot of the apps we have are thanks to open source software. For example, Sean Costello from Valhalla Plugins, who makes the most
Mm.
amazing reverb plugins, he donated reverb code over a decade ago that we're using in AudioKit Synth 1.
Oh
He
wow.
wrote this code before iPhones were even invented. That's the beauty of open source. His work and contributions are influencing musicians right now.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's one thing I love about the internet and the world we're living in right now is how it's really a great way that we can all like kind of gather the whole mass of like human intelligence and knowledge and share it with each other. And I think the fact that you're doing this in a way where it's anyone can come and take what they need is just going to open so many doors. And there's already so many apps people have been making with your audio kit stuff.
Yeah, it's one thing just to make apps, but when we can share code and share knowledge, we empower people to change their lives, to change the world, and to impact musicians directly. There's so many people trying to take advantage of musicians, and we just think that it's time for someone to step up and be like, just because you can charge for something doesn't mean you should.
Hmm.
So we make everything free and open source, and because of that, we attract a lot of great talent. I mean, we have people from, gosh, the biggest companies in the world, from people that are working on desktop apps, from Adobe Edition to the Raleigh software to anyone you could think of. and they just want to donate their time and after work to making it better for the people that came after them.
Really, that's nice. Yeah, you have a pretty impressive list of people that have been contributing and offering their services. It's how I mean, I'm just so happy for you that like people are jumping on board with this idea.
Yeah, I think if you do something that's altruistic and it's for the good of everyone, people want to be a part of it.
Hmm.
I mean, there's no money involved. AudioKit doesn't even have a bank account, so
Yeah,
and,
that's
we'd
cool.
love to get you involved in the future. For some sound design and maybe some sound sample packs.
I was having
Put you on the
fun
spot
designing
here.
some presets myself already on Synth One.
Oh yeah, send it to me. I'll put them in an update. It'll
Oh,
be
cool,
part of the
cool.
official app.
Nice, thanks. That's awesome.
For those listening, check your the downloads to get the AfroDJMac sound packs.
So the big news, I guess, is that you've released Synth One, right? That's the
Yeah,
exciting thing that's going on right now. That was just the other day.
and yeah, for those listening who don't know what it is, it's the first professional open source iOS synth. And this is exciting because there's tons of open source iOS or sorry, tons of open source synths for the desktop, but even though people think of the iPad as a music making instrument, there hasn't been one yet. It's been 10
Mhm.
years and it's taken 10 years for this to happen, so it's pretty monumental.
So now this would mean that people can. You've got all the code up on GitHub, I believe it is, right? And people can go in, download this, and start making their own alterations.
Yeah, well, we have the code for Synth One will be up in like the next week or two. We're cleaning it
Okay.
up right now, so probably by the time this airs, it will be.
Hmm.
But yeah, so 100% of the code will be online, and people can make alterations, and they can load it on their own iPad if they download a free app called Xcode, and they can actually run it on their desktop as in the Xcode simulator. And I actually do that a lot and use it with Ableton and make demos and cool stuff like that. It's kind of like using it as a plugin through
Nice.
Xcode. Uh, and so those who really want to get involved, we're actually going to accept pull requests, which means people can contribute their own code or features and have it in the actual app that's in the App Store. So for those who download the app, they see it's kind of a panel design, so people could
Mhm.
add more panels. There's a really
Oh
nice
wow.
tuning panel in the app that was created by a guy named Marcus Hobbs, who has this app called Will Sonic, and he wanted to add tuning to it. And so we just made it part of the whole app. So who knows? There's other app developers who have talked about adding like more sequencing ability and stuff like that. And so people might extend it. So this time next year, it could be this huge mega app.
Hmm.
Not that it isn't already, but
Oh yeah, it's like very full featured. I mean, you got the arpeggiated sequencer, envelopes, filters. You've got a lot of effects, XY pads to control things. It is a lot of fun, and I wanted to talk to you about the tuning part of it actually, because for I clicked on a lot of them and I wasn't even sure what I was getting out of it, but I knew I was getting like some pretty cool, like exotic intervals. So it wasn't just like the equal temperament of our 12 note scale. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Exactly what I'm doing? Because I'm getting like really cool moods and really cool melodies coming out of it.
yeah, a lot of it is inspired by the work of Irv Wilson. And one of his dreams, he was a big microtonal guy back in the day and published a lot of books on it. But one of his dreams was to release an open source microtonality synth. And, I think that was like 30 or 40 years ago.
Hmm.
But it's finally kind of happened here with AudioKit Synth One, where we're kind of exposing people to all these different scales outside the Western box of 12
Yeah.
tones. And I think it might open people's eyes to new ways of making music. And we're kind of excited to see where people take it. And it truly makes it a worldwide instrument where, it's not just, Western music anymore. Anyone can use this synth to make music.
Yeah,
And they're
I've never gone too far in that world into the micro tuning and the different intervals. I did take a course in college, music of the Middle East, which was kind of like, oh man, when you're hearing like quarter tones and half tones and all these different intervals that we just don't have on our instruments. It was very eye opening, and it kind of makes you realize how much of our understanding of what music and melodies are is so cultural. It's just that
Gosh,
we've been surrounded by it so much that we get
well
used to it.
said. Yeah, well, very well said.
But I love the layout you have, though. Tell me if I'm understanding this right. It kind of looks like it's almost like a circle, and there are points along the circle. And from what I can understand, is like I'm guessing that that represents like an octave, the whole circle, and
Yes.
then each point along is a degree in the scale.
Yes.
Okay, because when I look at the 12 equal tempered one, I can see it looks like an equal sliced pie, 12
Exactly.
slices. But then as you start exploring, I just think the layout is so cool because it lets you see like where the notes fall in relationship to like what you're used to hearing.
Yeah, I mean, it's even cooler when you go with the scales that have more than 12 tones in a scale.
Yeah.
So it takes up more than the entire keyboard just to go through a few octaves. It's really exciting stuff. So we're going to allow people soon to load their own scales and create their own scales. But to get this started, we had a team of microtonality experts like really sit down and curate these scales as some of the most popular ones to get kind of ease people into it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's incredible. I mean, I think it's going to open up a lot of worlds for people. I mean, for me too, I was just like I said, getting lost in it and just really observing. Because the way that the sequencer works on the app, which is really nice, and I don't always like these types of sequencers, to be honest with you, where you're kind of like moving a slider, but
yeah.
because of the way you've got the scale set up, you can actually see like the notes light up as they're hitting them. I think it's just a great educational tool to understand what's happening in the relationship between the notes.
Yeah, we're getting so much positive feedback about the microtonality aspect, which is usually kind of an afterthought for most
Hmm.
apps, but I think it's bringing it to the forefront. And who knows, maybe this is going to really start a revolution of alternate tunings and music. I mean, because the app is ridiculously popular right now. I think at the moment it's being downloaded more times than GarageBand. I'm sure that's going to end by the time this airs, but people seem to
Wow,
like it for now.
that's incredible! Congratulations. Well, I think the microtonal, the visual is really powerful. I think that's because we can all understand like how our notes are laid out within that kind of graphical circular interface, and then when we see like the changes as we go through the different types of scales and different um, I guess intervals between notes, you start to see how they're all related. And I think it's a really powerful way to understand what you're actually hearing.
Yeah, that's a really fun aspect of the app. Very
Mm.
cool. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, thanks for putting it in. And that's something you had spoken to me about a little bit in our emails, that this was like a really great tool for people learning, and especially when people don't have access to purchasing it, even like a $1 app. Can you speak about that a little bit? How you hoping to get that out? And
Yeah, so I hope this doesn't sound too self-righteous, but we've learned that a lot of like teachers and groups actually give iPads to students, and then they can't actually download any apps because they don't have credit cards,
Mhm.
or perhaps they use them at school, and people are like, well, they could buy gift cards, but a lot of these kids, they might get their only meal of the day at school,
Right.
and they'd have to save up a lot to buy a $25 Korg app, which might be something that you and I could just purchase as an afterthought. So we wanted to build something cool that everyone could use, and you could actually use on a record and use it to make music. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the goal of this project. And we also want it to be a learning tool so that people could take aspects of the synth and use it in their own apps. And so it's empowering for people who want to help their situation via music or via writing code to make and sell an app. Maybe they'll make $1 million selling an app from this code. We won't take any of the money. They can keep it
Hmm.
all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Coming from like an educational background, a lot of students might have some of these devices, but they can't download any app that's not free. And it might just be that their parents won't let them, but there are like these restrictions, and it does sort of guide the direction a lot of the students I work with go into, because, well, this is what I can get. This is what's available. And even I've showed students like $1 apps literally that I thought, oh, you're into music, you gotta check this app out, and they're like, I can't get it. I can't buy it. So I think this is a really cool way to get a very powerful tool inside their hands.
Yeah, that's super. I wish I would. I might have to record what you just said there because I'm glad someone else is backing me up when I say this. Because a lot of times when people are like, I don't believe that's really the case, and I'm like, this is in third world countries. This is like Chicago. This is like everywhere. This is happening in America.
Yeah, well, I mean, most young teenagers don't have credit cards for good reason, so they don't have the ability to just do something small like that, even if it is $1. And I think a lot of their parents don't understand what they're actually buying them to, so they're less willing to, and whatever the reason is. But it's a really cool thing that they can just get it. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Before this released FM player, it was made as a way we wanted to make a way for people to build like sample-based instruments. So they could convert like contact instruments or SF2 instruments and play them back on their iPads. So we released this code, we called it ROM player, like, like a rompler type thing. And it would allow people to take an EXS files and make their own iPad app.
Oh.
And to promote it, I sampled this DX2 I came across that allegedly was actually played by David Bowie and was in the Electric Lady Studios in New York. And I heard it, and it was like some of the best outputs I've ever heard on a DX7 II. And so I just kept sampling it and released an app version of this code, and it's called FM Player. So if anyone's looking for a DX7, a sample-based DX7, you can download it for free in the App Store. It's called FM Player. And we also have the source code where you can make an app like it on our GitHub.
Uh-huh. So
I didn't explain that right, but
no, I think you did. So you're saying, and this is news to me, you're saying what we can do with you can take like you said EX24, which is the Logic sampler, so or Contact as well. We can take those patches and then turn them into iPad apps.
Yes, but with very little code, but it's still very basic, as you can see with FM Player. It doesn't have like ADSR or filter envelopes or complicated LFO routing. It's a very simple player, but that might work for some simple instruments.
Yeah.
And my workflow for building FM Player was I recorded with a program called Sample Robot, which is you're familiar with that. It's really cool. They actually did like a feature of the making of FM Player on their website, I think. And then I used Contact to arrange the samples and then just converted them to EXS24. And you could load EXS24 into this ROM player code in like less than 10 minutes and have an instrument.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so the new code we have, you can actually do SFZ as well, which SFZ is a really powerful format because you can do compression on the samples, which is crucial for iPad development since space is at a premium. So FM Player 2, which I'm working on now, is going to be SFZ based, and I think it actually sounds better than the EXS24 instruments. So
really,
that's just my personal opinion.
Okay, so yeah, that's something I did not realize, that this is your FM player is really an example of what you can do with this source code with the ROM player.
Yeah, it's really funny because like FM Player became like a huge hit, and it was just supposed to be a code example. I think like Audio Newsroom named it one of the best iOS apps of 2017, and it got a lot of press just by accident, really. And had we known people would have liked it, I think we'd have put a little more time into it.
That's
but I've been updating it since then. Obviously, now that people like it. But
Well, I
It's
think
our,
what you have going for it is they're just like really nice FM sounds. Um, I think a lot of the FM players they don't even have filters on them, um, like the DX7, and it's I think a lot of people want just like some of those classic DX7 sounds, some of those classic FM pianos and things. So I think it works well in that because I think we all know how complicated FM gets once you start
yeah.
trying to program it yourself. So it's nice to just sort of have these sounds that are these classic ones we're used to.
Yeah, it's funny, because when you're an app developer, you get like tons of emails from like, even when you have a free and open source app that you do like for no money, people like send you a lot of hate mail. It's kind of funny. And there's like one guy's like, gosh, why can't I load a DX7 SysX? It's not rocket science, it's a DX7. I'm thinking, well, actually, I think a DX7 is more complicated than rocket science. You ever tried to program
Oh
one?
God. Yeah, it's a nightmare. I've had no success.
Yeah, like hats off to those sound designers. They're doing God's work.
Yeah.
Those original ones, wow, it's so good.
Yeah, it is. And but the beauty of the DX7 is there are so many of those I guess they're like sound pack sysx files you can get loaded with the presets.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of when I was going through and sampling. So I'm working on FM Player 2, which is going to have 100 more sounds in it. So I think I've gone through about 5,000 sounds,
Whoa.
and most of them kind of sound exactly the same. So you really have to,
Uh-huh.
dig to find it. So, but I'm doing all the digging for you, and so it's going to be a free update for FM Player
Hmm.
probably in the next 2 months, hopefully. So that's kind of what I do with my evenings is go through DX7 patches.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting life of a developer here.
Yeah, I've done that too. Because my DX7 doesn't really work anymore. I think the battery might be done or something. I don't know. I got to get someone to look at it, someone that knows better than me. But the Korg Volca, on the other hand, is sort of kind of released any pressure I had to get that thing fixed because you can load all those patches in, and it's so fun to
Yeah.
just go on the internet and download random DX7 patches and load them into the Volca.
Yeah, it's a
So,
lot of fun.
yeah, I think it sounds great. Honestly, I love it. um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess off the record, these DX7s have a lot of problems with power surges, so that
mhm,
might be it too.
yeah.
I actually had that. This one is so they soldered the power button, so they had to actually unplug it every time they would turn it off because it was getting hit by so much power. And having to be serviced so much, so that they're just like, when we're not using it, make sure and unplug it from the wall.
Oh wow.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, the old synths, right? Keeping them alive is definitely a challenge.
Yeah, yeah, I would buy all the synths if I had the money. So I guess it's good that I don't.
It's a nice deterrent, noting that they need a lot of service all the time.
But you sample a lot of stuff. Like you've got like I think one of the first ones
Yeah.
I downloaded from you was like a sub fatty library, and you did
Uh-huh.
like some Nintendo stuff.
Yeah,
Was some of the first ones?
yeah. I mean, pretty much anything I get my hands on, I wind up sampling. And part of the reason is like my DX7, I sampled a lot because I knew it was on the Fritz. So,
Oh,
I,
smart.
I managed to get a lot out of it before it just kind of died. Um, but also it's just nice to not have to carry them around everywhere too. And there's new layers you can add to it. New you can have a polyphonic sub fatty by sampling
Yes.
it. But yeah, I mean I'm all about it. I love it. I think it's just really fun to not only capture the sounds but then take them to like a new level.
Yeah, you're able to sound packs. I love because A, they sound great. They sound fantastic. You're obviously really good at sampling. And two, that you add like a little spin to them with like the Ableton instrument programming usually. Kind of give it some playability that you normally wouldn't have and some character
Oh,
that I like.
thanks. I'd like to have character. Sometimes it's my excuse for problems with the recording maybe. Uh, but I think that there's so many sounds that are really clean and perfect that you can get, and that
I hate those.
we already
Who wants
have.
to use those?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like the character. I like hearing a noise in the background. I think that adds like some depth to a recording.
that's
So
crucial. Fantastic. So I guess I could talk a little about what we're hoping to do with AudioKit maybe like six months from now. I don't know if that's
yeah, yeah,
something.
I'd love to hear this because I think like there's just so much promise. I've been looking through like some of the apps that have been made using AudioKit stuff, and surprised to be like, oh, like what a great useful thing. There was one in particular that stuck out, was like a pad player for it was designed for bands, so like you can just like hit a letter and it's the chord and it just like sustains a pad for you. Um,
Yeah, that's super awesome. I guess for between songs, it's cool, and I guess a lot of like worship bands in
uh-huh.
churches they do stuff like that. They
Mm.
hold these pads while during gaps in the service, or what. I don't know
Yeah,
how it works.
yeah, and
As
it
you can tell, I
seems
don't
like
spend a lot of enough time in church.
well, it seems like this is just like a really cool app for anyone that's like kind of needs like something in their music too. Like just like you can switch the chords just by quickly touching the screen. And I just love that it was the person that made it was the person that needed it. And I think that was a real testament of what's possible with the stuff you're putting out there.
Yeah, and for those listening who are thinking about building their first app, I would recommend building something you need and building the simplest form of that. Don't try to build something as complicated as AudioKit Synth One. That took us 2 years and a lot of heartache. Just think of an app that you want. Maybe it just plays an oscillator and does something simple. And then think about what you want and then cut those requirements in half and just build it and get it out there, because there's nothing better than the confidence boost of building something simple and releasing it. You know, this FM Player 2 that's coming out in a couple months, that was my original vision for FM Player. But if I wouldn't have released this original FM Player, I don't think, uh, we've impacted so many people's lives that
Mm.
had a DX7 and got to play it. And so I think just start with something simple and dive in and give it a try. If you're worried about failure, you will fail. Programming is hard, then but there's a huge community of people that have answers. So usually you can find the answer online, and you just got to keep trying. I mean, people say everyone can code, and it's true, but it's really hard. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I somehow release apps. So if I can do it, anyone can do it.
I think that's really good advice, what you said about, you know, make it simple and then cut it in half. um,
Yeah.
because we definitely sometimes overstretch our abilities, and it's nice to get those like kind of victories early on. You know, like
Yes.
that. Oh, I did this. I made this. I got this far. And like you said, like sometimes you have to get just the idea out. Like you said with FM Player, you got it to a certain point. It wasn't your initial vision, but you know you're moving forward towards that in the future. And getting the momentum of that first victory is important in getting to that final goal that you have.
Yeah,
With
and so if you can overthink an app too, and you think, well, I can't launch until I have this feature, but just
mm,
think about the feature that people are going to use the most.
yeah,
I do a lot of app developer interviews, and something common that pops up is that 80% of app features aren't used. So
mm,
it's, like almost 100% of your users are using 20% of your features. So concentrate on the big feature that makes your app unique and work
right.
on that.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's a way a lot of things get very convoluted too, where if you try to pack everything into it, all of a sudden you almost don't know what you're looking at, or you don't know how to use it, or it's too much clutter.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
personally like really into lately a lot of like the stuff I enjoy are not like these like devices that do everything for me and have each feature you could ever dream of, but the stuff that does like one thing really nice and does it in a nice fluid way. I think that's just it's more fun to work with. If you know what I'm saying, like it does what it's supposed to do, and easy enough to follow instead of just, all right, there's 700 different features and we got to figure them all out.
Yeah, I agree completely. Even though I'm guilty of releasing this huge mega synth just now.
Well, I I did see, like for instance, here let me be one of those people in the comments,
Oh yeah,
like,
great.
and I saw you putting it in anyway. Ableton Link. It's not. How does it not have Ableton Link? Like people might say, right? There's always something somebody could make a comment on, right?
Right.
I mean, you have hundreds of features within this synth. Um, the fact that I think honestly, like I'm really surprised there's that much in it on an initial release. But and then, like all the plans to like continue moving forward is just I think what you did is nice that you've offered like all these crazy amount of features, right? But you also said, hey, and this is still to come. I think that probably eases a lot of people and their worries and concerns.
Yeah, so it's not at a 1.0 release yet. I think we're still in like 0.8
Okay.
something. So I don't want people to think it's perfect or a finished product. To be honest, I'm just happy this thing compiles
Yeah.
and runs. The fact that it sounds good is just icing on the cake. you know,
Uh-huh.
uh, I started this 2 years ago as I wanted to make a synth app, and there was no examples. There was no way to learn how to do it
Mm.
for iOS. I mean, there's all these examples for the desktop, but it was like starting from scratch. So I just started putting together these simple examples online, and we released an app called Analog Synth X, which is a really basic iPad synth, and you can download all the code for that, and it's written in easy to understand Swift. And I think we made that in like just 2 weeks. And there's been dozens of apps that actually use that code and have synthesizer elements because of that code.
Mm.
And I guess once I saw that and got a taste that people really liked it, I think Synthopia somehow got a hold of it, and then it got like 8,000 downloads in one day. And we thought we'd get like 5 downloads originally. And so then after that, we're like, man, there's something to this. We could build a real synth. And we're like, oh, how long could it take? And like another 2 weeks. And here we are
Yeah.
2 years later.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah, I did see in your video. There were a couple heartbreaking moments where and you have the one guy saying, "Let's code it again. Let's start from scratch."
Yes. Oh, yes. So Ari Prohaska is the founder of AudioKit, and he deserves a lot of recognition. He started AudioKit 5 years ago, and every single day of the year, even Christmas, he makes a commit to AudioKit and gives code away. And he does this full time every day. He will jump on Skype with people and help them, and he doesn't
Wow.
ask for anything in return. And sometimes, like huge companies like McDonald's or Disney use his code, and they don't pay him anything, and he just does this all for free.
Hmm.
So he's really a sainted person, and I think uh, they say organizations are kind of they reflect their founder, and I think because of Ari's good nature and gregarious ways, people are drawn to AudioKit who
Hmm.
are because of that aspect. It's very open and welcoming, and they're inspired by his efforts.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible that he would do that, and that commitment that's huge. It
Yeah,
it's
I probably
giving
get
to
on his nerves a lot.
well, it's giving to the greater good, I think. To know that it was something like that kind of struck me when I first started realizing like YouTube was a learning tool. Like maybe this is like 2007 or so when you first start realizing you can actually learn things on YouTube. And there were a lot of people giving away what I thought were like their secrets, trade secrets, like whether it was a person doing sound design and how they write their songs and how they produce music, or whether it was a plumber showing you how to fix your toilet. My initial thing was like, they're giving it all away. Like they're gonna put themselves out of work, but it's actually done the opposite. It's just so
Right,
incredible.
yeah. A
And
rising tide helps everyone.
yeah, and it was
That's
like something I learned by following people that were showing music production stuff, I was following them, and I was listening to their music. I was getting into their world, and it kind of occurred to me like, wow, like this is like really what it's about. That it all kind of comes back. When you put it
Yeah.
out there, that like it's karma, or it's what goes around comes around type of thing. It's really nice to see that, and so many people working so hard to do what you guys are doing is really inspiring.
Oh, wow. I think what you're doing is inspiring. And, what you're doing, I think you've kind of already created a legacy for yourself by giving back. And think of all the music that's been made from your sound packs and people have learned from your videos and tutorials. I mean, you can't even measure that. I mean, people around the world.
It's one of my favorite things when someone sends me a song and says, "I used your sound here," and you listen to it, and you're just like, "Wow!" Like, you just feel like you were a little bit a part of that and somehow involved to help somebody get. Because I mean, I try to be inspiring and help people make more stuff, but I'm like anyone else. Like I go through my phases where I'm just like, I don't know how to make music anymore. Everything I do is this, and I have no new ideas. And I think everyone that's creative goes through that. And then you get like an email or something or a tweet, and it's someone showing like, "Hey, I'm using your thing," or "Thanks for doing this or that." And you know, even talking to you, like it's just it's wow. This everything like kind of
Reminded you?
ripples out, and it like comes back, and it's amazing. It's one of the great things about doing it. It makes me want to keep going.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you say that because I kind of I kind of had this idea in my head of you kind of like this super talented celebrity guy making these sound packs, and I wouldn't even occur to me that you would also like search for motivation and inspiration like everyone else. But
Oh my
it's good to
god.
know you're human.
No, it's a constant struggle, and I sometimes like I find myself talking about it and saying it, and I realize like I need to hear this too. I really need to. A lot of what I did with the podcast, honestly, was just to start sorting these ideas out and just remind myself a little bit. And I really wanted to talk to people that had some sort of insight and understanding. And um, how do you do it? I mean, I could ask you the same thing. I mean, how do you manage, like when you're thinking it's going to be 2 weeks, you said before, and here you are 2 years later. How do you not in those 2 years hit a point where you're just like, ah, forget it. Like it's just this is taking forever. How do you do?
uh,
What are some of your secrets?
I got to be honest. Like for the first year, I think I hit that point almost once a day because audio programming is so hard and there's no answers online. And what we're doing, there was no documentation, which is kind of the benefit of us releasing all this code. So now people after us will be able to a lot easier. But if we're just like, is this even possible? It's so
Yeah.
hard. And like, does anyone appreciate what we're doing? And there's no money. And why am I spending like 2 hours on this stupid problem that no one's going to care about? And so, you know, I think for me, I would always like tweet about it like once a week, like some progress. And I thought
Yeah.
just like by putting it out there, I'd be held accountable. That people would be like, well, when's that app coming? You tweeted about it, so
Yeah.
I it doesn't work for everyone, but it was kind of like a public death by public humiliation if I don't
Yeah.
release the app
Oh,
eventually.
I think there's definitely something to like a little like public shame. I think when you sort of like state you're gonna do something, I do think it does help you get there because you don't want to be the person that said they were gonna do something and didn't.
Yeah, and there's also like a lot of books that say you're never supposed to say what you're doing. But
Uh,
so I guess whatever works for people.
yeah,
And
and I
go
think
ahead.
that might be the sign of that there's no one right answer, right?
Yeah.
If like there are, yeah, I've seen that too. Like, keep it to yourself. No one cares. They're just gonna put you down when you don't make it, or tell everybody and like,
They'll put you down when you do make it. That's how you know you made it.
that's funny. Yeah, I think Dave Grohl said he knew he made it in Nirvana when Weird Al started making fun of them.
Ah,
It's funny.
I would love for Weird Al to make fun of me. I think that's a huge honor.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's funny. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we run into this in so many things. Right now, actually, my wife and I are trying to put a patio in our backyard, and already I've had a few of these moments where, well, this is just impossible. We're never gonna get it. We're never gonna be able to finish it. Like, the other day I had done. She was at work, and I had some time, so I was out there in the sun, sweating, and put down like I don't know 12 of our huge pavers. And she came home and she's like, it's not level, it dips there. And we ultimately had to pull them all up. And it was just that whole night I was defeated. I was like, I can't do this. I don't know how we're gonna ever finish this. And there was that real lull, which is of course kind of coincides with like a musical lull too, because I'm trying to make music that night and I felt like I came up with nothing. But the soldiering on is so important. And we had I think in a way we had a little bit on the line with telling other people we were working on this, and now there are people like, so how's it going?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
the last thing I want to say is like I gave up.
That's perfect. And I think that's also key is just to work on it a little every day, even if it's only 15 minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
surprised at how that momentum adds up. Because if you go too long, like that day becomes 2 days and 3 days, and all of a sudden you're not working on it for 2 weeks.
hmm
It's-
yeah. I That's a little trick I play on myself all the time. Is I'll tell myself, I gotta go work on some music for 10 minutes today. I'll just do 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is like nothing, obviously. It
Right.
takes you that long to turn everything on. But I find usually that once I'm started, once I've kind of gotten in that like mindset that I'm going to be doing music, then I'm there and I'm in. But it takes like a little like mental kung fu or something, some trickery to just get yourself started on it. I think that's the real hard part is taking the first step.
That's really good advice. You're dropping a lot of good nuggets today. We might have to edit this to like, top 10 tips here.
Well, I think like what you said too is like it reflects that like just a little bit every day. Just try to move forward and you know, talk about it once in a while. Throw it out there here and there with the tweet saying like, "Hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is our progress."
And sometimes no one cares. I mean, like
Yeah.
I was really excited when I would get like 3 or 4 likes on a tweet. I thought that was huge. And I
Mhm.
think like now, like one of my tweets got like over 100 likes, and I thought, nah, it's like, whoa, just blowing my mind. But of course, a lot of people listening will be like, oh, 100 tweets, that's nothing. Like I sneeze and get that. But I think it's all relative to people. Be grateful
Yeah.
for what you have, and one is better than none. You know, some people
Yeah.
are unhappy with 100 YouTube views, and I think I've played so many band shows with less than 100 people that I would be ecstatic if 100 people showed up to something.
Oh yeah. No, tell me about that. I've literally I did a show once out in Brooklyn. It was like a weeknight and it was like late and I had work the next day and no joke, I was the only person there. The
Oh.
sound guy even left and to get a drink or something. And I was literally playing for myself and like I just kind of like thought to myself like, I had this like, what am I doing with my life moment. But then I was like, well, I'm doing this right now. And I just, I had fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I was just fooling around, experimenting. And, I was like, well, like, I'm here. My stuff's all set up. I'm playing. Like, whatever. Just do it. But yeah, so like what you're saying, like, the reach you can get now it's all relative like because I would have been thrilled if two people came down into that room that night.
Yeah, so I mean, for those that are putting out content and making things, maybe you get 100 listens on SoundCloud. That's 100 people. That's pretty significant.
Hmm.
You don't think of it like that. When they say like fads like the Hush Puppy fad was started by like 70 people, what, in Brooklyn,
Hmm.
added in Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point book. He makes reference to that. So it takes less than 100 people to start a movement. So
Yeah, that's true. And I think we do lose sight of the scale of this stuff too sometimes. With you hear of things going viral, 4 million views and stuff, and um, yeah, just a little bit. Like if you could get that, and if you think about it, especially like I like to sometimes picture like audience sizes, whether it's like a baseball stadium with 50,000 people or whether it's like, a theater with 1,000, and just like imagine like what that would look like. What would that group of people look like? Um, what would those
yeah,
views look like in people in seats, for instance?
yeah, that's exciting. So I'm grateful for everyone that listens to this podcast that's still listening. And so, do people come to your shows now that you're kind of a household name in the production world?
I don't get a lot of that, honestly. A little
Uh,
bit.
because
I
producers don't go to other producers' shows. Is that how it works?
Well, I have no idea how it works. I think a lot of the shows that I do, and I haven't actually done a show in a couple months now, but a lot of times I'm kind of with my friends already anyway.
Yeah.
So, but like there are some cool shows around here that are like very community based where you'll see that happen. There's the Warper Party is one big one out here, which is like a whole night, and it's usually like 2 floors of music and visual artists, electronic artists, and that's like a really nice communal thing where people will go for that kind of stuff. Um, but it it's definitely, I think part of what the internet does too is it takes a really spread out audience and brings them together. So like although you might see you're getting like this many views or downloads, I mean, how many of them are near enough to you to actually see you do your thing?
You're just gonna have to go on a tour and find out.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like Ill Gates, like he gets a lot of people show up at his like workshops and stuff when he tours through places
Yeah.
like Denver and stuff. I've seen like packed houses, so I bet people would come out and see you.
Yeah, and he does great work, and he's another good example of someone like giving away a lot of cool knowledge and secrets, maybe you want to like call it like that, and it's really paid off for him. He's I think like his some of his videos, his ill methodology are just, it's great. Such powerful stuff
Oh
that
yeah, I love his work.
you could totally understand somebody like trying to hide that away and like not let anyone see it. But it's so cool that he's so open about it. Yeah.
That's very cool. And it's the thing with iOS programming is that we're all kind of in this together. The community is really small. So
Mhm.
if someone doesn't know how to do something, there's always someone there to help them because chances are they learned because someone else taught them.
Yeah.
So they're just paying it back. And it's kind of, I've never met an iOS developer that wasn't willing to help another iOS developer. So I think we're pretty lucky in that respect. The community is so small and so wonderful. Whereas, I sometimes the old school music community, like they're kind of guarded and secret of that stuff. But it seems like people are becoming enlightened, as you said. So I think that's the way to go. Share everything you know and help others, and you'll be rewarded tenfold.
Yeah, I can't really think of too many examples of like when people have like shunned the community that it's helped them in a positive way.
Yeah.
We work as humans in communities and groups, and I think even if you're playing in bands, doing shows, it always helped to make a community about it, or my people are
Yeah.
going to hear your music and your people are going to hear mine, and like now we're a thing, we're moving at this together. Like um I think someone I spoke to on the podcast actually put it this way, which I thought was great, was like, to make it in doing something like anything music related or even programming. I mean, really a lot of things, a lot of the different things we all want to do with our time. It's like it's a fighting a war, pretty much. It's a real battle, right? And you don't fight wars with one soldier. You get an army. you know, and I just thought that was like a great comparison. Like it's so much better to have a team and a group and people that are supporting you and helping you and lending their expertise and sharing. It,
Wow,
it's it's so
that's
powerful.
that is a powerful analogy, and it's so true. You know, you can build something greater than the sum of your parts.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that applies to the synth as well because uh, the lead developers, none of us are really great audio developers, which is probably why it took us 2 years. But thanks to the help of everyone else, we were able to put together this synth that people seem to really love. And so I think that
Yeah.
just shows the power of working together and how average people can create something above average.
Mm.
I don't want to say extraordinary, but
No,
but
no, I
better than
think
the sum of our
I
parts.
think if you yeah, right. I think though when you look at the whole picture, I mean this could really be pretty far reaching. You know, that you really don't know who's going to pick up some of your code and start using that filter or whatever, the oscillator that you've created to make something totally different. It might not even be music related. It might just you know, you have no idea where people are going to take it. It might be in some sort of project that helps kids learn to read or something. um and you've made that an easy thing for them to have. I think it's
That's
so
so true. It's like Sean Costello's code. Like, did he think that there would be a handheld device that would have his reverb code a decade later?
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Who knew, right?
it's amazing.
I think it can go in so many directions. And I think it's important for people that are doing it themselves and trying to get into it, maybe don't have a lot of experience, to try to reach out and ask for help too. Um, like you said, Ari from AudioKit is so willing to help other people. Um, and I think I read somewhere that like maybe it was like Benjamin Franklin uh advice on being like a good neighbor was to ask your neighbor for a really small favor, like borrow something or you know
Oh,
just
I thought you were going to say he was to ask your neighbor for syphilis.
well that might form a different kind of relationship, I guess.
Oh, Ben Franklin.
Yeah. But I think the idea behind that was that it's a really easy way for you to kind of give that person the feeling of they're helping someone, right? So like we all feel kind of good when we help another person. So as a neighbor, if you ask just a small favor, you know, can you take my mail in tomorrow? I'm not going to be in or whatever. Um, and it almost gets them like invested in you too. So like if and I get this a lot, like people will ask me a question and I'll answer them, and then I wanted to find out, well, how did that help you? Let me hear what you did with that.
Oh, yeah, like the follow-up is the best part. And so for everyone listening, please email Brian directly with all your questions and favors, and he will be happy to do them all
Yes.
right away.
Within the hour.
Yes. And if he doesn't, just send him an email reminding him and ask why he hasn't done it for you yet.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
I'm just trying to help you help others.
Well, actually, you know, it's kind of true in a way. My last podcast, one of the last episodes, I based off of an email I got from someone. And there was the question that comes up all the time: how do I finish music? How do I finish my songs?
Oh, that was a great podcast. Everyone should listen to that if you haven't already.
Thanks. But it helped me too get through the whole struggle of it too, just to sort of like, yeah, how do you finish this stuff? And a lot of the things that I realize that people are going through are the same things I go through. And sometimes dealing with that problem from like a third person perspective gives you a new understanding of how to approach it.
Right. You're a teacher. Isn't there a name for that where you teach people and it helps you learn? What's that called?
Yeah,
There's like
probably.
for that. Yeah.
I mean, trust me, like things like I teach high school English, like things like grammar. I mean, I learned all that because I had to teach it, not because I learned it in school and
Now I'm afraid to email you now that I know you're a grammar teacher.
no, no, no. No, they don't we don't really teach grammar anymore. There's not much of that. It's not like as formal as it was at least when I was younger. But I mean, like, you know, there are times you have to go over like, you know, when to use your apostrophe or something. And
I still don't know.
Well, you just stick it in there once in a while. You get it right every then, every now and
I
then.
don't think most adults know proper English grammar just from my daily interactions. I mean, you live in academia, but in the real world, it's surprising like how far people get without basic,
Yeah, it's true.
English skills.
It's true, and I think part of that is some of our communication is like become less formal. Texting,
Yes.
emails. People aren't stressing about the grammar so much. Um, but the point is, I guess, like nothing will help you learn something like trying to teach it. And I find a lot of times when I'm looking at what someone else is doing, I'll see like, oh, that's the same problem I have. I'm able to analyze their issue without my own like self-conscious like, well, I can't finish a song because I suck at writing melodies, or because I'm a crappy guitar player, or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
So all of a sudden those like insecurities aren't there because I'm talking about you now. This isn't me, with all my problems.
Oh wow, that's great advice. And I've heard like some of the best ways if you're like struggling with something is to imagine you're giving that advice to someone that's not you.
Uh-huh.
Or like if you had like a best friend, or like how would you tell them to solve that problem?
Yeah, I could see that. Like kind of disassociate yourself a little.
Exactly.
I
I'm
think
trying to do that now with all these negative app reviews, just like trying to be a little more zen.
try not to worry about that. I mean, I think for one, I think people are more likely to leave a review when they have a complaint.
Yes, that is
For
true.
one, I think like a picture you're going out to eat at a restaurant or something. How many people that had a great meal want to see the manager? I mean, it's just way less common. And I've tell you what, I've had some I've gotten some emails, some responses that are pretty hurtful. And
Really?
oh
And
yeah.
like, so yeah, you're like giving out a lot of free stuff to people, and people still complain.
Oh yeah, well I think you said it yourself, like your app's free and people are going to complain
Yeah,
about it, like of course. Like I think anytime you put yourself out there, people are, for whatever reason, right? And I've kind of learned either to just not engage with it, or like I had someone like really really sent me a nasty email, and I wrote back and I was like, I'm really sorry you feel that way. It's never my intentions to, um, whatever it was. And I got an email back, and because I didn't escalate, they were actually like, listen, I was in a bad mood, and like your video came up, and I just didn't want to hear it, and it was actually became like a very positive interaction. Though my initial reaction was to be like, "Oh yeah, you think that's nasty? Wait till you hear what I have to say to you." But by not escalating, it, I found out that like the person really didn't mean it.
that's so amazing, and somehow sometimes your biggest critics can sometimes become your champions if you let if you put your ego out of the way and
Yeah,
try to see their sides.
yeah. Let them be heard a little bit can definitely make a. And sometimes it might not be told in the nicest way, but there might be something useful within there.
Yeah, they say like sometimes feedback is better than money. Yeah,
Mm.
if you're willing to hear it.
Yeah, true.
Well, one of my mantras that got me through this last year is ego is the enemy. So
Mm.
just like stay humble, listen to everyone, and don't take anything personally, whether it's good or bad. Don't let the praise get to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even more destructive than the hurtful comments. So,
Yeah. Did you read that book, Ego is the Enemy?
Ryan Holiday, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I, I just started obstacle is the way.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I read that
I,
one
don't-
too.
is
Well,
that
I
is that
I
good?
listened to it. Yeah. That's
Oh yeah, I've got it
that's
on
how I
Audible.
read now. I feel like a cheater when I say I read these books that I've listened to, but
Yeah, and I really like his daily stoic email he sends out. I'm
oh,
just
I don't get
subscribed to
that.
that.
No.
So he sends like kind of like some daily advice.
Hmm.
It's good to keep that practice fresh. Stoicism.
Yeah, a little reminder here and there is always good. Yeah, I think that is I mean, it comes up so often in music, like the ego thing, where you're playing with a bunch of people and you come up with a cool riff, and you want, and then like someone says, "Ah, can you not do that here?" And you're like, "What? You don't like me?
Yes.
You think I'm a bad person and I suck at guitar?" It's like, no, they just didn't want to hear that riff there. It's so easy to like put your ego in like your work and like the product you put out. And I mean, I've definitely
That
done that, and like I put out a pack and or something or a tutorial, and I see it. It's me now. It's not just
yeah,
the idea
yes.
or the sound. That's me, and I think that's a hard thing to break from. Even knowing that it's a problem, like it's still a hard thing to avoid.
That and what you brought up was like a brilliant analogy of kind of open source software developer, because everyone wants to kind of show up their kind of brilliant idea or
Mm,
feature they want to add to the app, or the way they write the code that might be clever, but it might not benefit the whole app. So it's kind of one of those things where people are doing this all for free in their spare time, and then they might have all their code deleted because it doesn't work. So it's you just got to work together, and don't get hurt when that stuff happens.
yeah.
Or people like Ari will take my code and completely like destroy it and then break it, and like I have to be grateful for that because I know in the end the code will be better. So
Yeah.
uh, so it happens in code just like it does in a band.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that being a real big factor, honestly, in the code. That because I mean, you must be trying to streamline it as much as possible all the time to
Yeah.
keep it concise. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people's work gets cut out all the time.
Yeah, and so some people, like our users may not think that we're doing anything, but we're working on it every day. So it's getting better. So that's kind of another mantra of AudioKit is we can't promise the code is good, but we can promise the code is getting better.
Okay. Hey, that's good. If you could say that about everything in life.
That's our open source mantra at AudioKit. And like it's kind of funny because like as AudioKit has attracted a lot of contributors, like there's been some haters on places like Reddit, which I love Reddit, but sometimes people can get angry
Yeah.
about nothing.
I'm
But
blocked on Reddit
they're
right
like,
now.
"You're kidding!
I'm blocked on the Ableton Live subreddit.
You're kidding! For what? Promoting your own stuff?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think of it too much as promoting, but I was putting out like when I do a tutorial or a pack, I would post it there. And then one day I
But
wasn't
you're
able
doing
to
too
do it.
many.
I guess like a weekly I was doing it,
That's not a lot." But see, that's the thing is,
I guess it's
if
got seen
someone
as
else does it, it's
self-promotion.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sucks. Like you're doing something that benefits the Ableton Live community. But I had the same thing happen like on the Swift community. I like did this awesome tutorial thing. And they're like, "Well, you're self-promoting." It's like, well, it's just free content.
Yeah.
But back on topic. So this dude is like, uh, uh, don't take this the wrong way, but AudioKit is technically inferior to a lot of open source projects. I don't understand why people like it so much and so many people, and it's so popular. So I was just like,
Okay.
man, this guy is bitter. And I think the answer to that question is that we have a community that's open to everyone. You can contribute code even if you're a beginner. So there's like a lot of open source projects where they'll kind of shoo you away if you're not expert level.
Right.
But Ari makes it a point to kind of ingratiate people, and there's different ways you can get involved. You can make simple examples to be included, like maybe you make some sort of simple music app example that's distributed with AudioKit. It doesn't have to be something huge or highly technical. It can just be something fun, like a drum machine or something.
Yeah.
And anyone who wants to get involved, if you're listening, you can check out AudioKit. There's all kinds of tutorials and playgrounds, and it's free and open source. And it is what you make of it. You could use it to make your own apps. You can contribute to it, or you could just use our apps in the App Store. It's all there for
Mm.
you.
I wanted to ask you a question. I think I know the answer
Just
myself.
one question?
Well, well, I think this is something that maybe some people are wondering. It comes off of a comment somewhere. It might have been CDM or Syntopia maybe, but
Oh, yeah.
it
Those are where
was
the best comments come from, Synthopia.
it Syntopia. I love Syntopia. It's an amazing place. There's so much good news, and they've been
Oh
good
no,
to
I
me
love
over the years.
Synthopia. I'm just talking about the
But
commenters.
sometimes things get a little rough. But I think they get moderated well too. I think you see that a lot, like personal attack deleted. So I think they're good about keeping it as clean as they can. But I guess people get through too. But anyway, the comment was something along the lines of uh, how are we doing like a race to the bottom type of thing? Like if this app like Synth One is like a really full featured app, right? I mean, no doubt about it, that could have been on the market for $30, $40 with all the features it has. And now it's a free app. Um, is this a potentially like damaging thing to the community of developers where I mean making money as a developer, as an iOS developer, is challenging enough as it is. Do you,
I'm glad you brought this up because it's exactly the opposite from the developers I talk to. So apps are not a zero-sum game. And what we're doing with AudioKit Synth One is bringing a lot of new people into the community. Like this, mainstream Engadget article today that has more shares than any other Engadget article today. I think it was shared like 500 times just on Facebook in the last couple of hours. Just crazy how viral it's gone. We're bringing people to synthesizers on iPads that may not have seen them before. And those people, you don't just buy one synth and call it a day. Once you get a taste of one, you
right.
want to buy them all. And what we've done is we put money in people's pockets. Now they have $20 in their pocket that they could spend on another app. Not only that, but we've got code that other developers can help. I've talked to at least 2 different developers that are adding some of the AudioKit Synth One features to their own apps. These are apps that they're selling. They're making money off our code. They're not giving us any money for that. And so they're taking features from this app and putting it in their paid app. So not only is it bringing more attention to iOS music and kind of whetting people's appetite, it's like kind of like a drug dealer giving you your first hit for free, but we're also giving away the code so that people can make their own apps better, and it's kind of elevating the entire community. So it's just a win-win-win for everyone.
Right. And I mean that's like kind of where I thought you would go with it. Because it is really what you're doing, in my opinion. I mean, I'm one too. I give away a lot of free stuff, so I get that. I do think it's a helpful thing. That I've read that somewhere, and I remember thinking like that's an interesting point to bring up. But the fact that it's probably, I would imagine, like helping a lot of people enter the market too in creating their apps. I mean, like someone like me, for instance, who has no idea how to do any of this stuff. This would probably be a place I would go if I was in the world of trying to make my first synthesizer app, or it might even be a totally different type of tool for all I know. But the fact that it's almost like this kind of a buffet of things you can use, I think really is going to help more people get involved than really kind of squash everyone else out of the market.
Oh, absolutely. And so all the iOS music developers, we're really friendly with each other. Like I said, there's different Slack groups, and we all talk to each other.
Yeah, I
And
you had
people
a
might be
comment.
surprised.
Yeah, you had a
Go
comment
ahead.
from Michael Tyson from Audio Bus, right? A quote on
Oh,
there, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was cool to see that quote there.
Yeah, Michael's one of those people that's hugely influential and essential to iOS music because, without him, apps couldn't interact with each other. We wouldn't have an ecosystem where
Yeah, Audio
you could,
Bus.
yeah, and that spawns Interact Audio. And not only that, but he created this online forum. The Audio Bus forum is, for those listening, it's the de facto place for iOS music. Like, I think the post about AudioKit Synth One from yesterday already has like 3,000 views. It's that popular, like, of a forum where you might see like a synth app might get like 20 or 30,000 views on a topic. It's just like it's the forum for all things iOS music. And so if definitely for those interested in iOS music and you're looking where everyone hangs out, it's on that forum. It's not just for audio based stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, because I guess Audio Bus, I mean, it's like the hub for your apps anyway within your
It has
iPad.
become the hub, yeah,
That's
the hub
pretty
for
cool.
interaction. And so it's kind of funny, like, you know, like there is a guy who made a top 5 app in the App Store in the music because of the Audio Bus forum. Like he used AudioKit and he made it in a week. So he just got like ideas from people and he just kept people posted on the forums, and then he released the app, and because of the community, you know, it shot to the top of the charts. So that's another example of, you know, embrace your community.
Yeah.
Don't develop things in secret. You know, everyone wants to be so secretive and everything. It's like, well, why bother? Like ideas are meaningless. It's how you deliver and your value and your story that's important.
Yeah, I think everyone has an uncle that has a great invention that he'll never create, you know. And
dude, yeah, every Lyft driver has
idea.
Every Lyft driver I have has $1 million idea. As soon as I tell them I'm an app developer, they always have an app idea. Oh yeah, and it's family reunions too. You know, everyone's got an app idea too, and then they get so upset when I don't have time to develop it for them. You know, it's.
But yeah, I mean, I think so many ideas get expanded upon, and they're like, to have a community like that sounds great. But I think it's also, I see it in so many surprising ways where you would think people would be a little more competitive or secretive, where sharing is like the name of the game. And I think to realize that like it's a together thing is so much more important. I mean, I think of, I guess, like I think like fast food restaurants. You know, if I'm going for lunch, yeah, I can only go to Burger King or McDonald's. I can't really go to both. But like if I'm listening to music, I can listen to your song and their song, and there's no limit. There's no.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. It's like, you know, if someone released the best book in the world and made it free, people aren't going to stop reading books.
Right. Good. Yeah. Exactly. It doesn't just eliminate books.
Race to the bottom for books. Now all books are free.
Yeah. Oh yeah, or even just like a book about how to write a book. You know, Stephen King's memoirs on writing. It didn't like ruin his career. You know.
That's funny.
So. Yeah, I think like that's so cool too. I noticed that right away. I was like, oh, it's really awesome that like, you know, there are other developers like into this and like sharing this and talking about how cool it is.
Yeah, we're all in this together. You know, if not, you know, life's too short to hide things. I think it's all about legacy too. You know.
Yeah, that could be a cool legacy. Great. Yeah, like to know that something might have helped someone in their life just because you guys put it out there for other people to use. You know, maybe just you removing just enough barriers so that someone can do something that might really make a difference in other people's lives.
Gosh, I hope so. That's better than money. Certainly, there's no money in what we're doing. It's all MIT open source, so we couldn't sell it even if we wanted to. So the goal is, you know, we feel rich because we help people and help musicians. So we get to do both. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And we've got ourselves a nice, fun toy in the process with Synth One.
Yes, everyone download it. AudioKitPro.com/synth. It's free. Get it now while it's hot.
Yes, I do recommend it, everybody. I'm kind of I've probably spoken about this before, where the like iPad revolution, I think.
There's a revolution?
Well, like I think like there was an idea like it was going to change everything with music making, and for me the reality of it was like it's like sometimes it's just doesn't feel right to swipe my finger across a screen. I don't get the feedback. Like it maybe didn't live up to the hype, though there are certain apps that are really useful and effective and do what they do in a cool way. They make use of the touch screen technology in a nice way. I think your app is one of those in that it just gives you like really nice access to all the different parameters and sequencers, arpeggiators, and all that stuff in a really useful way.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Well, hopefully we don't ruin it too much in the coming months and years.
I doubt it. I think having all these minds working on it is definitely a positive, you know, for sure.
Yes, we'll see. Cool, man. So I guess I better let you get back to work. Is there anything else you want to talk about for the cast here?
Well, where do you want people to go? Was it audiokit.com/synth? Is that audiokitpro.com? I'm sorry.
I would say audiokitpro.com.
Mhm.
And then we have a section there called like Why AudioKit, where people could learn about how they could start programming with AudioKit. And then, of course, we've got links to FM Player and AudioKit Synth One at the top there.
Yeah, and they're both dynamite apps. I mean, they're free too. I mean, so there's no excuse.
Yeah, like, show some love to it if you like it. Tell your friends. Leave positive reviews in the App Store. The more people that know about it, the more musicians we can reach and the more people we can help. So we ask that you pay us back by sharing it and, making awesome music with it.
Well, I think we all have a vested interest in sharing it because that's going to mean more developers are going to get their hands on the audio kit and be able to make more cool stuff for us to make our music with.
Well said. Well said. You get it. You understand things. That's why you're winning.
Well, listen, Matthew, it was really awesome talking to you. I appreciate you taking the time. I know this must be a very busy time for you too with the release just out. So it means a lot to me that you would sit down with me for an hour and talk. So thanks again.
Oh, this is one of the highlights of the release.
Oh, no kidding.
And now people are listening. They're going to make their own open source app so they can get on your podcast.
There we go. Spaces are filling up fast, folks.
You start now, you could be done 2 years from now.
Yeah, but seriously, I do appreciate it, and I even more so appreciate the work you're doing. So
Thank you.
Keep at it. I look forward to the update to FM Player. I'm a fan of that app already. So looks like good stuff in the future. Thanks very much.
Yeah. I'll have to send you the beta, see what you think of it.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So audiokitpro.com. This is the Music Production Podcast. We're talking to Matthew Fecher. And anything else, Matt? Does that wrap it up?
Thank you so much for having me. And support Brian's work. Download his stuff. Watch his videos. They're awesome. I think he's doing a great job.
It means a lot coming from you. I appreciate it. All right, we'll say our goodbyes to the listeners out there now. Have yourselves a great day.